The early 20th century brimmed with hope. Electric lights illuminated the night, automobiles transformed the way people moved, and moving pictures brought stories to life in ways never seen before. It was an era that seemed to promise endless possibility, a time when technology was rapidly reshaping every aspect of daily existence. Cities buzzed with excitement, and the world felt on the brink of a dazzling new age. But beneath the glow of progress, darker stories unfolded, stories that rarely made the headlines yet shaped the era just as profoundly. In the shadows of innovation, hardship and exploitation thrived. Ruthless competition and a shocking disregard for human and animal life often powered these innovations. Factories were dangerous, and the race to invent sometimes left ethics behind. The story of Topsy the elephant is one such tale, a stark reminder that progress can come at a terrible cost. Topsy's life and death reveal the hidden price paid for spectacle and advancement. Topsy's tragedy was shaped by society's insatiable hunger for exotic entertainment, and by a brutal corporate battle over the future of electricity. She became a symbol, caught between public fascination and private ambition. The War of the Currents, pitting Thomas Edison against George Westinghouse, was fought not just in labs, but in the public eye. Both sides used fear, spectacle, and even living beings as weapons in their quest for dominance. Topsy became an unwitting pawn in this dangerous game, a living creature manipulated for the sake of technological rivalry and public attention. Her story forces us to confront the uncomfortable truths behind our celebrated history, reminding us that progress is often shadowed by suffering and moral compromise. How do we reconcile the marvels of invention with the moral failings that sometimes accompany them? Can we celebrate progress without forgetting those who paid the price? Topsy's fate is a mirror, reflecting the exploitation and manipulation that can lie beneath the surface of progress. Her legacy challenges us to look deeper, to question the true cost of innovation, and to remember the lives forever changed in the name of advancement. Topsy was born in the wilds of Southeast Asia, living freely with her herd until she was violently captured as a calf. Shipped to America, she became property of the Four Paws Circus, her identity rewritten for marketing. Life in the circus meant relentless training, unnatural tricks, and constant confinement. Behind the spectacle, Topsy endured harsh discipline and isolation. Her intelligence and memory made the trauma even more profound. Years of mistreatment made her unpredictable, and her handlers saw her as a problem to be controlled. The public saw a performing marvel, but her reality was one of suffering. As she grew, her spirit and strength became threats to those who exploited her. The narrative shifted. Topsy was no longer a star but a dangerous animal. This shift would ultimately seal her fate. Over time, Topsy's resistance grew. Her spirit, once celebrated in the circus ring, began to break under the relentless strain of captivity and mistreatment. Her aggression was not random, but a desperate response to years of abuse, neglect, and the harsh discipline of her handlers. Each scar on her body told a story of pain and survival. The public, however, was told she was simply a bad elephant, a dangerous animal, unpredictable and violent, with little mention of the suffering she endured. In 1902, after a drunken spectator burned her sensitive trunk with a lit cigar, Topsy lashed out and killed him, an act of self-defense that would seal her fate. The incident was sensationalized in the press, painted as proof of her menace, and the headlines stoked public fear and fascination. The nuances of her suffering, her years of torment, were lost in the rush to sell papers and entertain the masses. Few paused to consider what drove her to violence. Sold to Coney Island's Luna Park, Topsy was forced into grueling labor, paraded for crowds, and subjected to further incidents, often provoked by the cruelty of her new handlers, who saw her as little more than a sideshow attraction. Her new owners, Thompson and Dundee, viewed her not as a living being, but as a liability, a dangerous animal, and perhaps a final opportunity for spectacle and profit. They announced her public execution, planning to turn her death into a ticketed event, a macabre show for the curious crowds of New York. The ASPCA objected to the method, hanging, calling it inhumane, but notably did not oppose the execution itself, reflecting the limited compassion of the era. This protest led to a search for a more humane method, opening the door for a new kind of demonstration, one that would merge cruelty with technological spectacle. Topsy's life was reduced to a business problem and a publicity stunt, her suffering overshadowed by the ambitions of men eager for attention and profit. Her fate was now intertwined with the ambitions of powerful men, engineers, businessmen, and showmen, each eager to use her story for their own gain. She was no longer an animal, but a symbol in a corporate war, her life and death manipulated to serve as a warning, a spectacle, and a tool in battles far beyond her understanding. The stage was set for a grim finale, one that would forever mark Topsy's name in history, not as a villain, but as a victim of human cruelty and ambition. The War of the Currents raged, Edison's direct current versus Westinghouse and Tesla's alternating current. Edison, desperate to protect his DC empire, launched a campaign to brand AC as deadly. He staged public electrocutions of animals to stoke fear. The term Westinghouse became synonymous with electrocution. Edison's goal: make AC so terrifying that the public would reject it. When New York sought a new execution method, Edison secretly pushed for AC, ensuring its association with death. The battle was as much about public perception as technology. This climate of fear set the stage for Topsy's execution. Her death would become the ultimate demonstration in Edison's campaign. The lines between science, business, and cruelty blurred. With hanging blocked, Luna Park's owners sought a new way to kill Topsy and draw attention. Edison's company saw an opportunity: electrocute an elephant to showcase the dangers of AC. Edison's technicians took charge, planning a public filmed execution. The method: poisoned carrots, a backup strangling rope, and most importantly, high-voltage electrocution. Wires were run from a nearby power plant, electrodes were attached to Topsy's feet. On January 4, 1903, a crowd gathered at Luna Park. Reporters and Edison's film crew were present to capture the event. The film was designed as propaganda, not just documentation. Topsy's death would serve as a warning and a marketing tool. On a cold January day in 1903, Topsy, a once-celebrated circus elephant, was led through the gates of Luna Park for the last time. The air was thick with anticipation and unease, as word had spread about the grim spectacle that was about to unfold. Topsy, confused and wary, was coaxed forward by her handlers. She ate the poisoned carrots offered to her, a final, cruel gesture meant to weaken her before the main event. Around her, technicians moved with cold efficiency, attaching thick copper electrodes to her massive feet, ensuring the current would flow directly through her body. The crowd watched in tense silence as the switch was thrown. Instantly, 6,600 volts of alternating current surged through Topsy's body, a force both invisible and unimaginably powerful. In a matter of seconds, Topsy's legs buckled. Smoke rose from her feet as she collapsed to the ground, her death both swift and shockingly violent. Edison's film crew, cameras at the ready, captured every moment: the convulsions, the fall, and finally, the eerie stillness that followed. The footage would soon be shown to audiences across the country. The resulting film was stark, clinical, and deeply disturbing. It stripped away any illusion of dignity, reducing Topsy's final moments to a cold demonstration. For Edison's camp, it was a calculated display, proof, they claimed, of the dangers of AC electricity. For Luna Park, it was a way to rid themselves of a troublesome animal and draw a crowd. But for many onlookers, it was a horrifying spectacle. An intelligent, sensitive creature killed not for justice, but for profit and propaganda. The event left a deep sense of unease in those who witnessed it. The entire execution lasted less than a minute, but its impact would echo for decades, haunting the public imagination and fueling debates about animal cruelty and the ethics of public entertainment. Topsy's death was not just an execution, but a carefully staged performance, engineered for maximum effect, and designed to shock, awe, and persuade. The silence of the film lingers even now, a chilling testament to the era's moral blindness and a reminder of how easily cruelty can be disguised as progress. In the end, Topsy's life was ended not by her own actions, but as a pawn in a ruthless corporate feud, her story a somber warning from history. Edison's film shocked audiences, briefly reinforcing fears about AC, but the War of the Currents was won by Westinghouse and Tesla. AC's advantages were undeniable. Edison's campaign faded. AC powered the modern world. Topsy's story, meanwhile, was largely forgotten, a grim footnote in the history of invention. Only later did activists and historians revisit her tale, recognizing her as a victim of cruelty and corporate ambition. Today, Topsy is a symbol of the dark side of progress and the dangers of unchecked power. Her execution is seen as a landmark in animal rights history, a warning about the cost of treating living beings as expendable. The film of her death prefigured the power of media to shape public opinion. Topsy's legacy is a cautionary tale about exploitation, propaganda, and the victims left behind. Her story challenges us to remember those trampled in the march of progress. Topsy's story still resonates today, forcing us to question the true cost of progress. Her death, orchestrated for profit and propaganda, warns of innovation without ethics. Who are today's forgotten victims, sacrificed for technology or commerce? Topsy's fate shows the power of narrative. She was killed not for what she was, but for the story built around her. Edison's film manipulated public fear, a tactic echoed in today's media landscape. Her life compels us to reflect on our treatment of animals and the moral status of non-human beings. The pattern of exploitation continues, in labs, farms, and vanishing habitats. Topsy's tale is a mirror, reflecting both human brilliance and cruelty. It asks, who writes history, the powerful or the silent victims? The ghost of Topsy challenges us to look deeper, question the stories we're told, and remember those lost to progress.